Welcome to the MEDSIS Users Permission module. Let's take a quick look at how users are set up in the system. To begin, we'll highlight key course objectives, including recognizing user types within MEDSIS, highlighting user type setup and permissions, and discovering how different user types interact within MEDSIS. So let's define user types. All MEDSIS users are assigned to one of two user types, healthcare worker or public health worker. The user type determines the functionality available to users in the system and the permissions they are granted. So let's look at our user types. Our healthcare workers are MEDSIS users usually employed by healthcare entities associated with specific reporting organizations responsible for creating and reporting cases to public health. As a broader group, public health workers refers to public health staff, for example, at state and county or tribal health departments who may perform a wide range of actions within MEDSIS, including entering, investigating, or monitoring cases within the system. All public health workers are considered either a local public health worker or an ADHS public health worker. So for our local public health workers, they are MEDSIS public health workers at county or tribal health departments. Local public health workers are given permissions for selected program areas. And our ADHS public health workers are public health workers at ADHS. These public health workers can access cases from any jurisdiction and have selected functionality that is different from a local public health worker. ADHS public health workers are given permissions for selected program areas. So now that we've looked at the definitions and the different type of users, let's define our user permissions. Permissions refers to the access rights and capabilities assigned to users based on their user type, program area, jurisdiction, reporting organization, and or function, which define the actions they can perform and the information they can view within the system. Having defined user type and permissions, let's look at a visual representation of all we've just spoken about. As a healthcare worker, not only am I able to enter new cases, but I can view existing person records without edit access. I have minimal case edit abilities, and I have a limited view of information I see in case edit. But all of what I am able to view is based on the reporting organizations that I'm assigned to within MEDSIS. And for our local public health worker, I can view all existing person records, edit person and case details, and view and edit case investigations. However, that is all based on my program area as well as the jurisdictions I'm aligned to within MEDSIS. And finally, for ADHS public health workers, I'm able to view all existing person records, edit person and case details. I potentially have additional administrative permissions, and I can review and close cases all within MEDSIS. This, of course, is based on my program area I'm aligned to within MEDSIS, as well as the ADHS jurisdiction, which, for note, allows me to also view and edit cases across all jurisdictions. But let's not sell MEDSIS short. There are many additional actions that I can take as a public health worker classified as functions. And functions are certain MEDSIS actions for which permissions are granted only to individual users who need to perform a specific task. For example, batch actions. And again, we'll cover this in other modules. So when we take a step back and look at all of it together, you can see that the MEDSIS platform is structured in a way so that you only see the information you're supposed to, and others won't see information that they don't have access to. Having defined terms and visually represented what we've talked about, let's take a live look now at the system itself. And so on our left side, you'll see a local public health worker. And on the right side, you'll see a healthcare worker. And again, A healthcare worker can only see cases reported from their reporting organization, and future enhancements to the system will allow for you to see the reporting organizations in this view. And on the left side, our local public health worker will see cases in their jurisdiction as well as their program area, which for me in this situation are TB cases. And so when we begin to create a case as a healthcare worker, we'll see that we have access to report on all the different morbidities within the system. However, when it comes time to selecting our reporting facility, we'll only see those facilities that we are aligned to within the MEDSIS platform. On the other hand, when we're reporting a case as a local public health worker, we'll only see those morbidities that are a part of our program area, so the list happens to be much smaller. However, when we are ready to choose a reporting facility, we will be able to search the system for the facility we are reporting on behalf of. So not only have we seen our permissions play a role on our cases page, and we've also seen how they play a role when beginning to create a case. But now, let's take a look at what it does when we find an existing person. So as a healthcare worker, when I find an existing person, again, I'll only find that person if they have a case reported from our reporting organization. So in this case, we see one individual pop up. However, as a local public health worker, I'll see all the person records regardless of the reporting facility. And as you can see, there are multiple options here. So as a local public health worker, when entering a case on behalf of a healthcare worker, I need to make sure that I'm selecting the correct individual. Once we've done just that, and we've selected the correct individual, we can see the permissions playing a role here again on our local public health worker, where we have the ability to delete an address entry, whereas a healthcare worker, we only have the ability to view that entry. And as a local public health worker, once I click inside that entry, the fields are editable and I can apply those changes. However, as a healthcare worker, once I click in that, as you can see, those fields are only read only and cannot be changed. So I can still hit apply changes, but nothing actually is changing. So we've seen permissions now have an impact both on our cases page and at the start of case creation, and also deep within the case itself. So now let's take a step back and see how all these roles impact one another through this series of baton handoffs over a simple cases lifecycle. As you can see, we start with case creation, where case data is entered into MEDSIS by healthcare workers or public health workers and reported to public health. Each case in MEDSIS is now assigned to a primary jurisdiction based on the primary address selected for that case. As we continue, we move to case edit, where healthcare workers and public health workers with edit access will review, revise, and add case data where applicable. Users with edit access to the case, including healthcare workers assigned to the reporting organization and public health workers in that primary jurisdiction, may edit the case. And as we continue to move through the case lifecycle, we then move to case investigation. Within case investigation, our local public health workers gather more details and capture the case information within MEDSIS. And as they're doing that, we then shift to our case monitoring and updates, where the case is continuously updated with new data by local public health workers until resolved during this process. Once an investigation is complete, or when all relevant details for the case have been captured, local public health workers submit the case to ADHS for review and closure. In the hands of ADHS, they review and close the case within MEDSIS, making any updates necessary and reporting what needs to be reported to the CDC. And so at this point, we've looked at permissions over user types, over jurisdictions, and program areas. And we've seen how it impacts your experience on the MEDSIS platform. But one of the key enhancements to MEDSIS is the ability for users to view all accessible and assigned cases within their jurisdiction or program area under the same account without switching between roles. Access remains restricted to their assigned jurisdictions and program combinations, providing even more fail-safes. And so while we've covered a lot here within permissions and user setups, as more and more permission variances come about, we will make sure to cover those in more modules as they come out. Thank you.